Captain stood at the viewing window of the Dauntless, staring at the endless field of broken ships floating in the darkness. Metal corpses stretched as far as his eyes could see. Twisted hulls, shattered engines, and torn hull plates drifted in silence. This was humanity's reward for joining the Galactic Coalition. A graveyard. "It's bigger than we thought," said his chief engineer. She pressed her hand against the cold glass. "There must be thousands of ships out there." 10,347, said without looking up from his tablet. The young lieutenant had a gift for remembering numbers, according to the Coalition records anyway. Nodded slowly. 3 years ago, humanity had finally been accepted into the Galactic Coalition. Earth's leaders had celebrated like children receiving a gift, but the gift came with a price. The Coalition called humanity a Tier 3 species, the bottom level, below the with their massive warships, below the with their advanced shields, below everyone. And Tier 3 species had to pay tribute. That's why and his crew of 200 humans were here in the Outer Veil sector. Their job was simple: process the scrap from old alien warships, melt it down, refine the metals, send the materials back to the Coalition. Do this for 20 years and Earth could keep its membership. "It's slave labor," muttered Sergeant, the security chief. The old Marine leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. "They're treating us like garbage collectors." "We are garbage collectors," said quietly. "That's exactly what we are to them." Doctor walked onto the bridge. The specialist carried a data pad filled with notes. "I've been reviewing the scrap inventory. Most of it is worthless. Burned-out reactors, broken weapons, hull fragments with nothing useful. But the Coalition wants us to process 500 tons per month." "Can we do it?" asked. Shrugged. "If we work 3 shifts, maybe. But it won't be easy. Half this equipment is older than my grandmother." Turned back to the window. Outside, a massive space station floated among the dead ships. It was built from scrap too, barely holding together. That would be their home for the next 20 years. The thought made his stomach tight. "Let's get to work," he said. The next 3 weeks were hard. The crew moved into the station and began processing scrap. Every day, they pulled broken ships into the processing bay. Massive cutting lasers sliced through alien metals. Furnaces melted everything down. The work was hot, dangerous, and boring. Spent most of her time in the engineering section, studying the alien technology. She was fascinated by how different species built their ships, the used thick armor and brute force, the preferred speed and energy shields. Each species had their own style, their own methods. "It's like reading history books," she told one evening. "Every piece of scrap tells a story." "The Coalition doesn't care about stories," replied. "They want their tribute." But kept studying. She couldn't help herself. One day, while examining a particularly old section of hull, she noticed something strange. The metal had markings she'd never seen before. Not something else. She called Doctor to take a look. Arrived within minutes. She studied the markings carefully, running her scanner over the surface. Her eyes went wide. "This isn't from any current species," she whispered. "This is predecessor technology." "Predecessor?" asked. "An ancient race. They disappeared millions of years ago. Their technology was so advanced that even the Coalition can't replicate it. This," touched the metal gently, almost reverently. "This shouldn't be here. The Coalition would never include predecessor tech in a scrap pile." "Maybe they didn't know," said. "Or maybe they did know and wanted to see if we'd find it," replied. "Either way, we need to tell Captain." They found more pieces over the next few days. Fragments of predecessor technology hidden within ordinary scrap. Power conduits that glowed with strange energy. Hull plates that seemed to absorb sensor scans. A small reactor core that produced more power than anything humanity had ever built. Called a secret meeting in his quarters. Only his senior staff attended, and 3 other officers crowded into the small room. "Show me what you found," said. Spread several pieces on the table. Predecessor technology. At least 15 fragments so far, and we've only searched 5% of the scrapyard. There could be more. Leaned forward, studying the pieces. The Coalition has been looking for predecessor tech for centuries. If they knew this was here, they'd never give it to us. Finished. Which means either they don't know or this is some kind of test. A test for what? Asked. To see if we're smart enough to recognize it, said slowly. To see if we're worthy. Silence filled the room. Outside the window, a Coalition inspection ship moved through the scrap field. Inspector was aboard that ship. He came every week to check on humanity's progress. Had met him once. The alien had looked at like a human might look at an insect. There's something else, said quietly. I've been thinking, all this scrap around us, ships from dozens of different species, armor, shields, predecessor power cores. If someone knew what they were doing, they could combine them, build something new, something no one has ever seen before. Everyone stared at her. You're talking about building a ship, said, here in secret. Not just a ship, replied. Her eyes gleamed with excitement. A warship, better than anything the Coalition has. We have all the pieces, we just need time and skill. That's insane, said, but he was smiling. The Coalition would execute us if they found out. They'll execute us anyway, said softly. Maybe not today, maybe not next year, but Tier 3 species don't last long in the Coalition. Earth is being stripped of resources. Our people are being treated like servants. How long before they decide humans aren't worth keeping around? Looked at each face around the table. These were good people, smart people, people he trusted with his life. They'd followed him to this forgotten corner of space. They'd worked impossible hours without complaint. If we do this, he said slowly, there's no going back. We'll be criminals, traitors to the Coalition. Earth's government might disavow us. But we'll be free, said. Thought about his daughter back on Earth. She was 12 years old. He'd promised her he'd come home in 20 years. But what kind of galaxy would she inherit? One where humans were forever at the bottom, forever taking orders from aliens who saw them as inferior. Or one where humanity proved it deserved respect. He looked out the window at the scrap field, thousands of dead ships, but was right. They weren't really dead. They were just waiting for someone to see their potential. We'll need to hide it, he said finally. Make it look like we're still processing scrap normally. We can hollow out one of the larger wrecks, said quickly. Build inside it. Use the outer hull as camouflage. How long? Asked. Paused. 2 years, maybe 3, if we're lucky and don't get caught. And what will we call this ship? Asked. Smiled for the first time in weeks. We'll call it Phoenix, because it's going to rise from the ashes of all these dead ships. The next morning, Inspector arrived for his weekly inspection. The tall alien walked through the processing bay with his usual look of disgust. He checked the tribute quotas, examined the refined metals, asked condescending questions about human efficiency. Played his part perfectly. Yes, Inspector. No, Inspector. We're working as hard as we can, Inspector. Left satisfied. He never noticed the crew members quietly moving certain scrap pieces to a hidden location. He never saw marking fragments with special codes. He never suspected that humanity was planning something that would change the galaxy forever. After the inspector's ship departed, gathered his crew in the main hall. We have a new mission, he announced. Starting today, we're not just processing scrap, we're building our future. This will take years. It will be dangerous. Some of us might not survive. But if we succeed, we'll show the galaxy what humans can do. 200 voices cheered. For the first time since arriving at the scrapyard, they had hope. In the darkness of space, among the ruins of forgotten wars, humanity's greatest weapon was about to be born. 18 months had changed everything. On the surface, nothing looked different. The processing bay still melted scrap. The furnaces still burned hot. The Coalition still received their tribute on time. Inspector still made his weekly visits, and Captain still played the role of the obedient human. But deep inside a hollowed-out dreadnought, hidden from sensors and eyes, the Phoenix was taking shape. Stood on a platform overlooking the construction, the ship's skeleton stretched before her like the ribs of some massive creature, bones reinforced with bracing and covered in armor plates from a dozen different species. Welding torches sparked in the darkness. 300 workers moved like ants, each knowing their role. "It's beautiful," said his young assistant. "The girl had a talent for weapon systems. I never thought we'd get this far." "We're not finished yet," replied. "The frame is done, but we still need to install the power cores, the shields, the weapons, and we're running out of time." She was right. Inspector had been asking more questions lately. The humans were meeting their quotas too easily. They seemed too organized, too efficient. His suspicion grew with each visit. In the navigation room, Lieutenant Sun studied star charts. The young woman had an instinct for space that couldn't be taught. She could see paths through asteroid fields that computers missed, predict gravity wells before sensors detected them. "When this thing flies," she said to her assistant, "it's going to move like nothing they've ever seen. The predecessor engines don't just push through space, they almost slide through it." "If we can get them working," her assistant replied. "We will," Sun said confidently. "We have to." In the weapons bay, worked with a team of 20 engineers. They were trying to do something impossible. Plasma cannons operated at different power frequencies than rail guns. Human missile systems used completely different targeting computers. Making them all work together was like trying to play 3 different songs on 3 different instruments at the same time. "It can't be done," one engineer said, frustrated. "The systems are incompatible." "Then we'll make them compatible," replied. She pulled up a schematic on her screen. "Look, the cannons fire in 0.3-second bursts. The guns need 0.5 seconds to recharge. If we stagger the firing sequence, offset by 0.2 seconds, we can create a continuous stream of fire." "That's actually brilliant," the engineer admitted. Handled the tactical systems. His photographic memory meant he could recall every weapon specification, every ship class, every battle strategy the Coalition had ever used. He spent his days programming the Phoenix's combat computer, teaching it to think like him. "The Coalition relies on standard tactics," he explained during one of their meetings. "They've been using the same battle formations for centuries because they always win. Why change what works?" "But we're not going to fight like they expect," said. "Exactly. The Phoenix will be unpredictable. Every battle will teach it something new. The more it fights, the smarter it gets." Doctor made the biggest breakthrough in the shield systems. She'd been studying the predecessor technology for months, running thousands of simulations. One night, exhausted and frustrated, she finally understood. "They're not shields," she told excitedly. "Not like we think of shields. They're adaptive fields. They learn from every attack. The first time someone shoots us, the shields analyze it. The second time, they're ready. The third time, they might as well be shooting at solid rock." "How is that possible?" asked. "I don't know," admitted. "The math is beyond anything I understand, but the predecessors built it, and it works." Not everything went smoothly. Systems failed, equipment broke, people got hurt. A welding accident killed 2 workers and injured 5 more, held a quiet funeral, unable to give them the honors they deserved. Their names couldn't be spoken. Their sacrifice couldn't be acknowledged. They died as traitors to the Coalition when they were really heroes. The crew's morale suffered. Some questioned whether this was worth it. A woman named began talking about reporting the project to the Coalition. She thought they could earn mercy by cooperating. She thought the Coalition would forgive them. Sergeant caught her trying to send a message. He brought her to his office, her hands bound. "What were you thinking?" asked quietly. "That we're going to get caught," said. Her voice shook. "That everyone is going to die. Better to surrender now while we still can." "The Coalition doesn't show mercy to Tier 3 species," replied. "If we surrender, they'll execute all of us, every person on this station, including you." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do, because I've seen what they do to species who step out of line. They tried to resist Coalition mining operations. The Coalition bombed their cities from orbit, killed millions. That's what we're facing, not mercy, not forgiveness, extinction or freedom. Those are our only choices." Started crying. "I'm scared." "We're all scared," said, "but we keep working anyway." He locked her in a secure room. Not a punishment, but protection. If word spread about what she tried to do, the crew might turn on her. Better to keep her isolated until the Phoenix was finished. Inspector's visits became more aggressive. He demanded access to sections of the station he'd never cared about before. He deployed scan drones throughout the scrap field. He asked questions about power consumption and material usage. During one inspection, he stopped in front of the hollowed-out dreadnought where the Phoenix hid. "What's in there?" he asked, pointing. "Empty hull," said smoothly. "Too damaged to process. We're using it for storage." Studied it with his alien eyes. "I want to see inside." His heart pounded. "It's not safe, Inspector. The structural integrity is questionable. We've posted warnings." "I don't care about your warnings, human. Open it." This was the moment they'd feared. If went inside, he'd see everything. The Phoenix, the stolen technology, the conspiracy, everything would end. But had prepared for this. As moved toward the dreadnought, she activated the M dampeners hidden throughout the hull. They created a false sensor reading, making it look like the entire interior was flooded with radiation from a cracked reactor. His handheld scanner started beeping warnings. His face twisted in disgust. "Radiation leak. Why wasn't I informed?" "We just discovered it yesterday," lied. "We were planning to report it in our next scheduled communication." "Clean it up," snapped. "I don't want contaminated materials in my scrap yard." "Yes, Inspector." Left, but his suspicion remained. After he was gone, gathered his senior staff. "We're out of time," he said. "He knows something is wrong. He'll be back with more ships, more sensors, maybe even soldiers." "How long do we have?" asked. "Weeks, maybe a month." Pulled up a checklist on her tablet. The Phoenix is 87% complete, full engine capability, most weapons operational, shields at 90%, but life support is patchy. Internal systems aren't fully tested. Crew quarters are basically empty rooms with air. "Can it fly?" asked. "Yes." "Can it fight?" "Yes." "Then that's enough. We leave in 3 days." The crew worked without sleep for the next 72 hours. Final systems checks, loading supplies, programming navigation routes. Everyone knew this was it. Their one chance. If they failed, if the ship didn't work, if they got caught, it was over. On the 3rd day, long-range sensors detected hyperspace signatures. Multiple ships incoming. "Coalition Battle Group," reported. His voice was calm, but his hands shook. 5 warships, 1 heavy cruiser, 2 destroyers, 2 patrol frigates. They're 6 days out. "They're coming for us," said. Looked at his crew. He saw fear on their faces, but he also saw determination. These people had given up everything to build this ship. They'd worked in secret for 18 months. They'd risked their lives daily. And now, when the moment came, not one of them suggested surrender. "Load everyone onto the Phoenix," ordered. "Prepare for launch." "But we're trapped," someone said. "The Coalition ships are setting up a perimeter. We're locked down." "Not for long," replied. His voice crackled over the station's communication system. "Attention, human workers. A Coalition military force is arriving to conduct a thorough inspection. All personnel will remain in their quarters. All work will cease. Any attempt to leave this station will be considered an act of war. Comply and you will be treated fairly. Resist and you will be executed." switched off the communication. He walked to the viewing window and stared at the scrap field. Thousands of broken ships, dreams destroyed, civilizations conquered, all because they weren't strong enough to resist. But humanity would be different. He said quietly, "Start the engines." Deep inside the hollowed dreadnought, the Phoenix's predecessor power cores hummed to life. Energy flowed through alien systems, human modifications, and recovered technology that was old when Earth was young. The ship woke up. And above the scrapyard, Coalition sensors detected an energy spike unlike anything they'd ever seen. Stared at his screens in disbelief. What is that? On the bridge of the approaching cruiser, the captain saw the readings. Unknown vessel, massive power signature, it's in the scrapyard. That's impossible, said. There's nothing in that scrapyard but junk and humans. Sir, the sensor officer said urgently, the energy signature is increasing. Whatever it is, it's powering up weapons. Felt fear for the first time in his life. All ships, combat alert. Target that energy signature. Fire on my command. But they were too late. Inside the Phoenix, Captain sat in the command chair. His crew surrounded him. At engineering, at tactical, Sun at navigation, monitoring systems, commanding security. Everyone ready? Asked. They nodded. He smiled. Then let's show the galaxy what humans can build from their garbage. The Coalition battle group arrived ahead of schedule. 5 warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the scrapyard, their weapons already charged. On the bridge of the heavy cruiser Relentless, Admiral Oss studied the sensor readings with growing concern. There's definitely a ship in there, his tactical officer reported. But the scrap is interfering with our scans. We can't get a clear reading. How large? Oss asked. Unknown, sir, but the power signature suggests something big, maybe cruiser class. Impossible. Humans don't have the technology to build cruisers. The readings don't lie, sir. Oss turned to Inspector, who stood nervously nearby. You said this was a scrap processing station, nothing more. That's what it was supposed to be, replied. His mandibles clicked anxiously. The humans were just laborers, low-level workers. They shouldn't have been able to. But they did, Oss interrupted. Which means either you were incompetent or they're much smarter than you thought. Inside the scrapyard, the Phoenix prepared for launch. The ship sat inside the hollowed dreadnought like a bird in an egg, waiting to break free. 300 crew members scrambled to their stations. Most of them were engineers and technicians, not soldiers. They'd built this ship, but they'd never flown it into combat. Engineering status, ordered from the command chair. His voice came through the speakers. Power cores at 90% and climbing. All primary systems online. We're ready, Captain. Weapons. Responded. Plasma cannons charged. Rail guns ready. Missile tubes loaded. The predecessor energy lance is online, but Captain, we've never test-fired it. We don't know if it'll work. It'll work, said with more confidence than he felt. Navigation ready, Sun reported. I've plotted 6 escape routes through the scrap field. All of them are crazy, but one of them might work. Tactical. Pulled up a holographic display showing the 5 coalition ships surrounding the yard. Red dots marking enemy positions. Blue lines showing potential firing solutions. We're outnumbered 5 to 1. They have us surrounded. Standard doctrine says we can't win this fight. Good thing we don't follow standard doctrine, replied. Doctor's voice cut in from the shield control room. Captain, I need to warn you. The adaptive shields are untested. In simulations, they work perfectly. In reality, we might get blown apart on the first hit. Understood, everyone, listen up. His voice carried throughout the ship. I know you're scared, I am too. Most of you signed up to process scrap, not fight battles, but the Coalition left us no choice. They've trapped us here. They're planning to arrest us, maybe kill us. Our only option is to break through their blockade. He paused, looking at the faces on his bridge. Son, people he'd worked with for years, friends. We built this ship together from garbage, from spare parts and stolen technology. We made something the galaxy has never seen. Now we need to trust our work, trust each other. Can you do that? Yes, sir, came the replies. Then let's fly. The plan was simple but dangerous. Throughout the scrapyard, automated systems suddenly activated hundreds of derelict ships. Dead reactors flickered to life. Dark hulls lit up with running lights. Weapon systems that hadn't fired in decades suddenly armed themselves. It was all remote controlled by Wu's technical team, creating chaos across the entire field. On the Relentless, alarms blared. Sir, we're detecting power spikes throughout the scrapyard, the sensor officer shouted. Hundreds of ships are activating. That's impossible, Oz said. I'm reading weapons locks. Multiple vessels are targeting us. Evasive maneuvers, return fire. The coalition ships scattered as ancient weapons began firing randomly. Plasma bolts streaked through space. Rail gun projectiles pinged off shields. Most of the shots missed, but the sensor screens filled with contacts. Chaos. Confusion. And in that moment of disorder, the Phoenix struck. The predecessor energy lance fired. A beam of pure blue-white energy cut through the dreadnought's hull like it was paper. The lance continued across space, crossing 3,000 kilometers in an instant, and hit the nearest destroyer dead center. The destroyer's shields tried to form. Energy barriers flickered into existence. But the predecessor weapon didn't care about modern shields. It pierced through them like they weren't there. The beam struck the destroyer's reactor core. The ship exploded. A small sun bloomed in space, then faded. Debris scattered in all directions. 300 alien crew members died in an instant. On the Relentless, everyone stared in shock. What was that? Someone whispered. Sir, the target is gone, the sensor officer reported unnecessarily. One shot, direct kill. Find that ship, Oz roared. I want that weapon destroyed now. The Phoenix burst from the dreadnought hull, fragments of metal spinning away like confetti. For the first time, the coalition forces saw their enemy. The ship was massive, nearly twice the size of a heavy cruiser. Its hull was a patchwork of different metals and armors, clearly built from scrap. But it moved with grace and power, its predecessor engines glowing like blue stars. Target acquired, the Relentless tactical officer said. All ships concentrate fire. The coalition warships opened up. Plasma cannons, rail guns, energy weapons, missiles, everything they had. Space filled with deadly light as hundreds of projectiles converged on the Phoenix. On the human ship's bridge, everyone braced for impact. The first volley hit. Plasma bolts slammed into the shields, which flickered and rippled like water. Some energy got through, scorching the hull. Alarms blared. Shields holding, reported, her voice tight. But barely. They're analyzing the attack pattern. The second volley came. More plasma, more rail gun projectiles. But this time the shields reacted differently. They shifted frequency, adjusted their density. More of the attacks were deflected. Shields at 70% said, they're learning. The third volley was the heaviest yet. The coalition ships threw everything at the human vessel. But by now, the adaptive shields had mapped the attack patterns. They knew the frequency of the plasma cannons. They predicted the trajectory of the rail guns. Energy bolts splashed harmlessly against barriers that had learned how to stop them. Shields holding steady, reported, amazement in her voice. The predecessor technology actually works. Return fire, ordered, all weapons. The Phoenix unleashed its arsenal. Plasma cannons fired in staggered bursts. Rail guns added their weight. Human missile systems launched seeker projectiles that wove through space like dancing snakes. And coordinating it all was tactical system, which made the weapons work together like an orchestra. A coalition patrol frigate took the full force of the barrage. Its shields collapsed in seconds. Rail gun projectiles tore through its hull. Plasma melted its engines. The ship broke apart, adding more debris to the scrap field. "Second kill," reported calmly. Watched her weapons displays with fierce pride. The firing sequences are working, all systems operating at 100%. But the battle was far from over. 3 coalition ships remained, including the heavy cruiser, and they were adapting too. The captain was no fool. He adjusted his tactics, spacing his ships out, hitting the Phoenix from multiple angles. Sun threw the Phoenix into a tight turn that should have been impossible for a ship its size. The predecessor engines didn't just push. They manipulated space itself, allowing maneuvers that physics. "Coming around," Sun announced, heading for the gap between the cruiser and the destroyer. "They're trying to box us in," warned. "If we go through there, they can hit us from both sides." "Then we'll hit them first," said. "Target the destroyer's engines, disable it." "Yes, sir." The Phoenix dove between the 2 coalition ships. For a moment it was caught in a crossfire. Weapons struck from both sides. Shields strained. Hull plates buckled. Somewhere in the engineering section, an explosion killed 3 crew members. But its aim was perfect. The rail guns fired in rapid succession, each shot precisely targeted. The destroyer's engine section erupted in fire. The ship began spinning out of control, its power failing. "Third ship disabled," reported. That left the heavy cruiser and 1 patrol frigate. The frigate captain, seeing how the battle was going, turned and ran. His ship jumped to hyperspace, fleeing the fight. Admiral Oss watched it go with contempt. Coward. But he couldn't worry about that now. He had to stop this human ship before it escaped, before word spread that a single human vessel had destroyed coalition warships. "All power to forward weapons," he ordered. "Ram them if we have to." The Relentless accelerated, chasing the Phoenix through the scrap field. The 2 ships wove between dead hulls, using the debris as cover. The cruiser fired constantly, never giving the humans a moment to rest. "Shields down to 40%, reported. "They're wearing us down." "We need distance," Sun said. "I can jump us to hyperspace, but not with them this close. Their gravity well will tear us apart." "Then we make distance," said. He turned too. "How close can we get to the cruiser before the energy lance won't work?" Calculated quickly. Minimum range is about 100 meters. Closer than that and the beam won't form properly. "What's our current distance?" 300 meters. Smiled. "Sun, full reverse. Take us straight at them." "Captain," Sun looked confused. "You heard me. Fly straight at the cruiser, full speed." On the Relentless, the sensor officer shouted in alarm. "Sir, they're coming right at us." "They're insane," Oss said. "Maintain course. Let them destroy themselves." The 2 ships raced toward each other, weapons firing, shields blazing. It became a contest of nerve. Who would break first? At the last possible moment, Sun spun the Phoenix in a maneuver that left everyone's stomachs in knots. The ship rotated on its axis, presenting its weapons directly at the cruiser's bridge section. "Fire!" shouted. The predecessor energy lance fired at point-blank range. The blue-white beam struck the cruiser's command section and simply erased it. The bridge, the admiral, the senior officers, all gone in an instant. The beam continued through the ship, coring it like an apple. "Jump," ordered, "now." Sun's fingers flew across her controls. The Phoenix's predecessor engines opened a gateway to hyperspace. Space twisted. Reality folded, and the human ship vanished, leaving behind a crippled cruiser and the wreckage of 3 coalition vessels. In the silence that followed, the surviving coalition crews stared at empty space. They'd come to arrest some human laborers. Instead, they'd encountered something that would haunt coalition nightmares for years to come. In hyperspace, the Phoenix raced away from the battle. Damage control teams fought fires. Medical crews treated the wounded, and on the bridge sat quietly in his chair, processing what had just happened. "Casualties?" he asked. 11 dead, reported grimly, 23 injured. "And the ship?" His voice was tired but proud. "She held together, Captain. Some damage, but nothing we can't fix. The Phoenix proved herself today." "So did the crew," replied. He activated ship-wide communications. "Attention all hands. You've just done the impossible. You fought coalition warships and won. Not because you were stronger or faster or better armed, but because you worked together, because you trusted each other, because you refused to surrender." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "We're free now, but we can never go back to the way things were. The coalition will hunt us. They'll call us criminals. They'll say we're dangerous. And they'll be right. We are dangerous, because we're humans who refuse to accept our place at the bottom." "So where do we go from here?" someone asked. Looked at the stars streaking past in hyperspace. "We find others like us. Other species tired of coalition rule. We show them what we built, and we give them hope. Because if humans can do this with scrap and determination, imagine what we can do together." The Phoenix flew on into the unknown, carrying 300 humans and a dream of freedom. 3 months after the battle, the galaxy had changed. News traveled fast, especially bad news. A human ship built from scrap had destroyed 3 coalition warships and crippled a 4th. The story spread through trading posts, space stations, and planetary networks. Some species refused to believe it. Others whispered that maybe the coalition wasn't as invincible as everyone thought. The Phoenix didn't return to Earth. Captain knew what would happen if they did. Earth's government would apologize to the coalition. They'd surrender the ship and its crew to avoid war. Better to stay in the dark spaces between stars where the coalition's reach was limited. "We received another message from Earth Command," reported during a morning briefing. "They're demanding we return immediately." "What did you tell them?" asked. "Nothing. We can't risk them tracking our signal." Looked tired. She'd been working around the clock repairing battle damage. "The ship is at 98%. Another week and we'll be fully operational again." "Good, because we're not hiding anymore." Pulled up a star map. "The system, Tier 3 species like us. The coalition has them mining rare minerals. Working conditions are brutal. Hundreds die every year." "You want to help them?" Doctor asked. "I want to show them they don't have to accept it." Sergeant frowned. "We're not a rescue ship, Captain. We're barely armed enough to defend ourselves." "We don't need to fight. We just need to be seen." The Phoenix arrived in the system a week later. The planet was beautiful from orbit, blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. But the scars were visible too. Massive strip mines carved into the surface. Orbital platforms sucking resources into space. Coalition mining ships hovering like vultures. 15 mining vessels, reported. 3 coalition patrol ships for security, and something else. A coalition destroyer in high orbit. "They're expecting trouble," Sun observed. "They're about to get it," replied. "Take us in. Position us between the mining fleet and the planet." The Phoenix moved into position slowly, deliberately. Its weapons were powered down, shields at minimum, a peaceful stance, but its presence was impossible to ignore. Even from the planet's surface, people could see the massive ship blocking the mining operations. Within minutes, the coalition patrol ships moved to intercept. "Unknown vessel, you are in restricted space," came the transmission. "Identify yourself immediately." Opened a channel, not just to the patrol ships but broadcasting openly. Every ship in the system could hear, so could every communication device on the planet below. "This is Captain of the human vessel Phoenix. We're here to observe coalition mining operations and ensure they comply with labor laws." Silence, then laughter. "Humans don't have authority here. Leave immediately or be destroyed." "We're not leaving," replied calmly. "And you're not destroying us. Not without explaining to your superiors why you attacked a ship that was doing nothing wrong." The patrol ships didn't know what to do. Orders said to eliminate threats. But this ship wasn't attacking. It was just sitting there, and the whole system was watching. The Coalition destroyer captain made the decision. All ships prepare to fire. That vessel is a known criminal ship. We have authority to. Do you? Interrupted. Because before you fire, I want everyone in this system to know something. 3 months ago, 5 Coalition warships attacked the Phoenix without warning. They opened fire on a salvage station. They tried to kill 300 unarmed human workers. We defended ourselves. 3 of their ships were destroyed. 1 was disabled. That's not a crime. That's survival. On the planet below stopped working. They looked at their communication devices, listening to the human captain's words. The Coalition had always told them resistance was impossible. That fighting back meant death. But here was proof that it could be done. The destroyer captain hesitated. If he fired now, everyone would see the Coalition attacking first. Again, that would make this human ship look like a victim, a hero. Stand down, the destroyer captain finally ordered his fleet. But human, your presence here changes nothing. These mining operations are legal under Coalition law. Are they? Switch channels to address the planet. Listen to me, you don't have to accept this. Other Tier 3 species are watching. They're seeing that someone finally stood up to the Coalition, not with words, with action. The Phoenix was built from scrap they threw away. If we can do that, what can all of us do together? The Coalition ships didn't fire. They couldn't. Too many eyes were watching. Too many species hopping for something to change. For 6 days, the Phoenix held position. The mining operation stopped. The Coalition couldn't work with the human ship looming over them. Every hour that passed was another hour of lost profits, another hour of embarrassment. On the 6th day, the Coalition fleet received new orders. The mining operations were suspended pending review. They celebrated in the streets. But knew this was just the beginning. The Coalition couldn't let this stand. They'd be back with overwhelming force. The Phoenix needed to leave before that happened. Plot a course out of the system, he ordered, son. We've made our point. As the Phoenix prepared to jump to hyperspace, a small shuttle approached. Its pilot requested permission to dock, allowed it. A leader came aboard, accompanied by 2 guards. The alien was old, his scales faded with age, but his eyes burned with intensity. Captain, they said, what you did here. Species like mine have dreamed of this for centuries, but dreams don't usually come true. What can I do for you? Asked. Let me send you coordinates, places where the Coalition's cruelty is worst, places where people need hope. They handed over a data chip. You can't save everyone, but you can show them that resistance is possible. Took the chip, we'll do what we can. Over the next 2 months, the Phoenix became a symbol. It appeared at Coalition mining operations, factory worlds, and resource extraction sites. Always the same pattern. Show up. Position itself between the Coalition and the oppressed. Broadcast messages of hope. Force the Coalition to back down rather than risk public violence. The ship never fired a shot during those visits. It didn't need to. Its reputation was weapon enough. But the Coalition was patient. They were gathering their forces, planning, and when they finally struck, it would be with overwhelming power. Detected them first. Captain, we have incoming hyperspace signatures, multiple vessels, I count, 25, 26, 27. His voice trailed off. Sir, there are at least 30 Coalition warships dropping out of hyperspace. They've found us. Where are we? Asked. Threshold Station, Sun replied. Neutral territory, a trading hub. There are 5,000 civilians on that station. His blood ran cold. The Coalition was cornering them in a place with hostages. If the Phoenix ran, the Coalition might take their anger out on the station. If they stayed, they'd have to fight impossible odds. How long before they're in weapons range? He asked. 10 minutes, said. Captain's voice came through the intercom. I'm detecting the Coalition flagship. Dominion, it's a super-heavy battleship. One of their most powerful vessels. We can't fight that thing." Stood up, he looked at his bridge crew. They'd been through so much together, built a ship from nothing, won impossible battles, given hope to species across the galaxy, and now it might all end here. "Son, position us between the fleet and Threshold Station." "Captain," Sun looked confused. "You heard me. We're not running, not this time." "But sir," protested, "they have 30 ships. We can't win this." "Maybe not, but we can buy time for the station to evacuate, and we can show the galaxy that humans don't abandon innocent people." The Phoenix moved into position. Behind it, Threshold Station hurried to evacuate its most vulnerable inhabitants, but there wasn't enough time. There were too many people. The Coalition fleet arranged itself in battle formation. At the center was the Dominion, a ship 3 times the size of the Phoenix. Its weapons could level cities. Its shields could withstand sustained bombardment from a dozen ships. A transmission came through. "Human vessel Phoenix, this is Admiral Oss of the Coalition fleet. You are surrounded. Surrender immediately and you will be executed quickly. Resist and you will die slowly, and we will destroy that station behind you as an example." Opened all channels. He broadcast to every ship in the fleet, every receiver on the station, every communication relay in range. He wanted everyone to hear this. "Admiral Oss, this is Captain. You say we're criminals. You say we stole technology. You say we murdered Coalition crews, but you're wrong. We didn't steal anything. We used what you threw away. We built something beautiful from your garbage, and we defended ourselves when you attacked us without warning." He paused. "You've assembled 30 warships to destroy one human vessel. That tells me you're afraid. Afraid that other species will realize they don't need to obey you. Afraid that the Coalition's power is built on lies and intimidation. You're right to be afraid, because whether you destroy us today or not, the damage is done. The galaxy has seen what humans can do, and they're starting to ask, what can we do?" "Enough speeches," Oss snarled. "All ships open fire." 30 warships unleashed their weapons. Space filled with deadly light. Plasma, rail guns, missiles, energy beams, everything the Coalition had, all focused on one target. On the Phoenix watched her shields strain under the assault. Shields at 50%, 40, 30. "Captain, we can't take much more." The ship shuddered. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 7, fires in engineering, casualties mounting. "Return fire," ordered quietly. "Make every shot count." The Phoenix fought back. Its weapons found targets in the Coalition formation. A patrol ship exploded. A destroyer took critical damage. But for every ship the humans damaged, 10 more kept firing. Then something unexpected happened. Ships from Threshold Station launched. Not military vessels. These were cargo haulers, passenger transports, even personal shuttles. Hundreds of them. Civilian craft with no weapons to speak of. But they didn't attack. They positioned themselves around the Phoenix, forming a human, multi-species shield. Their pilots broadcast messages to the Coalition fleet. "If you want to destroy the human ship, you'll have to go through us first." The Coalition fleet hesitated. These were neutral civilians from dozens different species. Killing them would turn the entire galaxy against the Coalition. On Threshold Station, more ships launched, and then, incredibly, a transmission came from 3 Coalition patrol ships. They broke formation. Their captains announced they wouldn't fire on civilians. They joined the resistance. The battle stopped. Admiral Oss stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His fleet was falling apart. 3 of his own ships had turned traitor. Civilian vessels blocked his line of fire. And across every communication channel, people were cheering for the humans. "Sir, what are your orders?" his tactical officer asked. Oss had no answer. He'd brought 30 warships to crush one human vessel. Instead, he'd proven his point. The coalition ruled through fear, and fear was breaking. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "All ships withdraw." The coalition fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind burning wreckage and a galaxy forever changed. The galaxy would never forget the day hundreds of civilian ships stood between the Phoenix and certain death. Within hours, recordings of the battle spread across every communication network. Tier 3 species saw it first, passing the videos from world to world like a sacred message. Then Tier 2 species began watching. Even some Tier 1 worlds couldn't ignore what had happened. The coalition had blinked. On the Phoenix, repair crews worked around the clock. The battle had damaged 40% of the ship systems. 3 decks were exposed to vacuum. 28 crew members had died and 60 more were injured. But they were alive. They'd survived. "How long for repairs?" asked during a damage assessment meeting. 2 months if we had a proper shipyard, replied. 4 months doing it ourselves in deep space. "We don't have 4 months, said. He pulled up a galactic map covered in red markers. "Coalition forces are mobilizing throughout the sector. They're not going to make the same mistake twice. Next time they'll bring 100 ships." Doctor looked exhausted. She'd been treating wounded crew members for 18 hours straight. "Maybe we should consider the coalition's offer." Everyone stared at her. "I know how that sounds," she continued. "But they did make an offer. Earth could get Tier 2 status, full rights in the coalition, better technology, trade agreements, protection. All we have to do is surrender the Phoenix." "And execute the crew," added bitterly. "Don't forget that part." "They said arrest, not execute," countered weakly. "Same thing," said quietly. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Threshold Station was still recovering from the evacuation. Civilian ships docked and undocked constantly, bringing supplies and volunteers. "The coalition is offering Earth a deal because we scared them, not because they respect us. The moment we surrender, they'll go back to treating humanity like servants." "But we're just one ship," said. "We can't change the entire galaxy." "No," agreed, "but we can inspire others to change it." Over the next week, something remarkable happened. Ships began arriving at Threshold Station. Not coalition vessels, but independent craft from Tier 3 worlds. Small frigates, outdated cruisers, even converted cargo ships with weapons bolted to their hulls. Their captains all said the same thing. They wanted to join the Free Fleet. That's what people were calling it now. The Free Fleet. A collection of ships from oppressed species, all gathering around the Phoenix like moths to a flame. "We have 43 ships now," Sun reported during a strategy meeting. "Most of them are barely combat capable, but their crews are motivated." "Motivated doesn't win battles," said. "We need training, tactics, coordination. Most of these captains have never fired a weapon in anger." "Then we teach them," replied. He activated a communication to all the gathered ships. "Attention all Free Fleet vessels. This is Captain. I want to thank you for your courage in coming here. I know what you're risking. Your governments might disavow you. The coalition will certainly hunt you, but together we can create something new." He paused. For too long, Tier 3 species have been treated as lesser, given the worst jobs, the worst territories, the worst respect. The coalition gave us scrap and expected us to be grateful. But humans don't work that way. We see potential where others see garbage. We build where others see destruction. And most importantly, we don't accept that our place in this galaxy is at the bottom. Across the fleet, crew members listened. Some were human, most were not. And a dozen other species humanity had never even heard of. All of them shared one thing: they were tired of bowing to the coalition. "We're not starting a war," continued. "We're starting a movement. Every ship that joins us is a symbol. Every victory, no matter how small, proves the coalition isn't invincible. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to split into small groups. Each group will visit systems where the coalition abuses its power. We'll document it, broadcast it, show the galaxy what's really happening. And when the coalition tries to stop us, we'll defend ourselves." What if they destroy us? A captain asked. Then we'll be martyrs, said honestly. But I don't think it'll come to that. The coalition's power is based on perception. They want everyone to believe they're unbeatable. Every time we survive, every time we succeed, that perception cracks a little more. The Free Fleet dispersed over the next month, small groups of ships traveling to different systems. The Phoenix itself visited the sector, where coalition mining operations had poisoned 3 rivers. The human ship positioned itself over the main mining facility and broadcast evidence of the environmental damage. Within a week, the coalition shut down the operation, not because they cared about the environment, but because the bad publicity was costing them support among Tier 2 species. Other Free Fleet ships had similar successes. A destroyer helped workers escape from a coalition factory world. A cruiser exposed illegal weapon testing near civilian populations. Each action was small, but together they created a pattern. The coalition responded with fury. They declared the Free Fleet a terrorist organization. They offered bounties for captured ships. They deployed military forces to hunt down the rebels. And some Free Fleet ships were caught. The destroyer was destroyed with all hands. A cruiser was captured, its crew arrested. Each loss hurt. But the movement didn't stop. For every ship destroyed, 2 more joined the fleet. 3 months after the Battle of Threshold Station, something unprecedented happened. The Coalition Council called an emergency session. The topic, the Tier 3 crisis. Earth's representative was invited to speak. Ambassador stood before the council, facing hundreds of alien diplomats who thought humans were primitive. The coalition claims the Free Fleet is a terrorist organization, said calmly. But terrorism implies attacking innocents. The Free Fleet has never targeted civilians. They've only defended themselves when attacked. So I ask the council, who are the real terrorists? The species fighting for their rights, or the organization that bombs planets when they resist? The council chamber erupted in arguments. For the first time in coalition history, Tier 2 species were taking sides. Some supported the status. Others sympathized with the Tier 3 rebels. The head of the council, an ancient named AM, called for order. The human makes a point, he admitted reluctantly. The Free Fleet has not attacked civilian targets. However, they are operating outside coalition law. Then perhaps coalition law needs to change, replied. The current system is unsustainable. You can't keep half the galaxy suppressed forever. They'll either rebel like they're doing now, or they'll leave the coalition entirely. Either way, you lose. What do you suggest? AM asked. Reform, real reform. Eliminate the tier system. Give all species equal representation. Or at the very least, create a clear path for Tier 3 species to advance based on merit, not arbitrary coalition decisions. The debate raged for hours. Finally, AM called a vote. The motion was simple: open negotiations with the Free Fleet to discuss reforms. It passed barely, but it passed. When news reached the Phoenix, the crew celebrated cautiously. This wasn't victory, but it was progress. The coalition wants to negotiate, reported. They're sending a delegation to meet with us. Neutral territory, no weapons, full diplomatic protocols. It's probably a trap, said. Probably, agreed. But we have to try. We didn't build this ship and fight this fight just to keep fighting forever. The goal was always to force them to the negotiating table. The meeting took place on a small neutral station in unclaimed space. The coalition sent 5 diplomats, including a representative from the military. The Free Fleet sent captain, ambassador, and representatives from 3 other species. The negotiations were tense. The coalition offered minor reforms, better working conditions for Tier 3 species, slightly higher representation on regional councils, but they wouldn't budge on the fundamental tier system. This isn't good enough, said. You're offering table scraps and calling it a feast. Be reasonable. the military representative replied. "You're asking us to overturn thousands of years of tradition." "I'm asking you to treat every species with dignity," countered. "That shouldn't be revolutionary." The negotiations stalled. The coalition delegation prepared to leave. It seemed like all the fighting had been for nothing. Then something unexpected happened. 3 coalition patrol ships arrived at the station, but they didn't open fire. Instead, their captains requested permission to join the meeting. "We've been watching the Free Fleet," one captain explained. He was a young named N. "My crew has been watching, and we've been asking ourselves, why are we fighting to preserve a system that treats so many species as inferior? We didn't join the coalition military to oppress people. We joined to protect them." "You're traitors," the representative spat. "No," and replied, "we're the future, and the future doesn't include the tier system." Over the next hour, more coalition ships arrived, not attacking, defecting. Ship after ship announced they were joining the Free Fleet, not just Tier 3 species anymore, but Tier 2 crews who'd had enough. The coalition diplomats realized they were losing, not just the negotiation. They were losing the loyalty of their own military. "What do you want?" AM finally asked. The ancient had arrived personally when he heard about the defections. Specifically, what reforms would satisfy you? Listed them. Equal representation for all species, elimination of tribute requirements, independent oversight of coalition military actions, protection for species who want to leave the coalition peacefully, and a full investigation into past abuses. That would fundamentally reshape the coalition, AM said. "Yes," agreed, "it would, into something better." AM was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I'll bring your demands to the council. I can't promise they'll accept them, but I can promise they'll listen. You've earned that much." The coalition delegation left, stayed on the station with his crew, waiting for news. It took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of debate in the Coalition Council. 3 weeks of protests on Tier 1 worlds as privileged species realized they might lose their advantages. 3 weeks of hope on Tier 3 worlds as oppressed species dared to dream. Finally, the answer came. The Coalition Council agreed to reforms. Not everything the Free Fleet demanded, but enough. The tier system would be phased out over 10 years. Tribute requirements were eliminated immediately. A new court was established to investigate abuses. And most importantly, any species could leave the coalition without military retaliation. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. On the Phoenix, the crew gathered in the main hangar to hear the news. When finished reading the council's decision, 300 people erupted in cheers. They'd done it. They'd actually changed the galaxy. But held up his hand for silence. "This is a victory, but our work isn't finished. The coalition made promises. We need to make sure they keep them. And there are still species out there suffering under old coalition policies. So the Free Fleet continues, not as rebels anymore, as watchdogs, making sure the powerful remember that the weak can fight back." "What about the Phoenix?" asked. "The coalition still wants us to surrender the ship." Smiled. "They can want all they like. This ship proved something important. It proved that humans and any species willing to work hard and think creatively can build something magnificent from nothing. The Phoenix stays with us. In fact, I think it's time we built more ships like her." "With what?" asked. "We used up all the scrap at the old yard." "There are other scrap yards," replied. He pulled up a galactic map. Red markers showed coalition scrap yards scattered across dozens of systems. "The coalition has been throwing away advanced technology for centuries. Time we started recycling it properly." Sun laughed. "You want to build an entire fleet from their garbage?" "Why not? We built the most feared battleship in the galaxy from scrap. Imagine what we could do with 100 ships, 1,000. The crew started talking excitedly. Building more ships, training new crews, teaching other species the same techniques that created the Phoenix. It was ambitious, maybe impossible. But they'd done impossible things before. 6 months later, the Phoenix visited a new scrap yard in the sector. This time, they had coalition permission. 3 more ships were already under construction, using the same methods that built the original Phoenix. Crews from a dozen species worked side by side, learning from each other. Stood on a viewing platform watching the work, joined him. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "All the risks we took, the people we lost." "Every day," admitted. "But I also think about what we accomplished. We changed the galaxy, not with superior technology or overwhelming force. We did it by refusing to accept our place at the bottom, by seeing potential where others saw trash." "The Coalition gave us scrap," said, smiling. "And we built something beautiful," finished. Below them, workers from different species collaborated on the hull of a new ship. This one would be called Rising Dawn. Others were being built elsewhere, with names like Second Chance and Redemption. The age of the Free Fleet had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. In his quarters that night, wrote a message to his daughter on Earth. She was 15 now, growing up in a galaxy that was slowly becoming more fair. "Dear Myra," he wrote, "I know I haven't been home in years. I know I missed your birthdays, your school events, all the moments a father should be there for, but I want you to understand why. Some people accept the world as it is. Others work to change it. Your father chose to change it. We built a ship from garbage and used it to prove that everyone deserves respect, not just the powerful. The galaxy is better now than when I left. Not perfect, but better. And when you're older, I hope you'll continue the work, not with warships and battles, but with ideas and determination. That's the real human gift, Myra. We don't give up. We don't accept no. We find a way. The Coalition gave us scrap because they thought we were worthless. They didn't realize that humans have been taking the world's thrown-away things and making them beautiful for our entire history. It's what we do. It's who we are. I'll come home soon, I promise. But until then, remember, you're the daughter of the man who built the most feared battleship in the galaxy from spare parts and stubbornness. You can do anything. Love, Dad." He sent the message and walked to the viewing window. Outside, the Phoenix hung in space, surrounded by the ships it had inspired. Its hull was still a patchwork of different metals, still obviously built from scrap, but it wore its humble origins like a badge of honor. Because the Phoenix had proven something important. Not that humans were superior, not that violence was the answer, but that any species, no matter how small or weak, could stand up to tyranny and win. The Coalition had given them scrap, and humanity had built the future.